good morning and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily, reaching you live on Channels Television. Just in case you do not know, today is Thursday, the 23rd of July 2026, and in Lagos it is 25 degrees. The temperature is 25 degrees, so I don't know what you make of that, but I say welcome to the show this morning.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Megwa. Welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. Morning, Ayo. So yesterday, it felt like a bloodbath. I feel like I'm sitting in the aftermath of a bloodbath. So yes, on Politics Today, we had Mr. Daniel Boala here with Sean Kimaloe. You know, a lot of things came out about the congratulations. It was an innocent congratulatory message. But there are issues. The timing, it had come out before, why is it coming out now? And then the fact that it's coming out now at a time when there's some drama going on as regards to this heroin case that comes up every election. But just so we can get a sense of what happened, let's listen to what Daniel Boala said yesterday, right here on this particular table on Politics Today. Waiting on them, letting us know whether we have. So the United States President Donald Trump had lauded President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his decisive leadership on behalf of the Nigerian people. So it was a congratulatory message, and it was in a letter. Now in that letter, the president applauded President Tinubu's resolve to tackle the issues plaguing Nigeria, especially the violence affecting Christian communities. I remember our collaboration with President Donald Trump actually started with this whole idea that there is some kind of Christian genocide going on. So that was where the congratulatory message was stemming from. But I think we have that video right now, just so we can hear the spokesperson to the president speaking on that particular letter.
It is the recognition of the result of a collaboration that has assumed a very deeper and commendable level. The second in the command and ISIS globally was eliminated in Nigeria because of the joint operation. We eliminated and stopped their attacks because of the joint operation. We have deepened the collaboration to a point where we share intelligence, we have local training, and then you have the strike. So even last week, the one of the high officials in the U.S. government was here. The letter typifies, exemplifies, and explains the progress we have made so far with the United States, and we have similar progress with the rest of the world. The metrics is the progress we are making, which is resulting in the report you are hearing, including the present report that the President of the United States lauded Nigerian government for this deeper collaboration and the progress it's making. America is the strongest secured country in the world. But 2 months ago, you know that there was an attempt at the president twice. Insecurity is an ongoing thing. We have repaired, we have resolved, reduced the attack, we have gone on the offense. There are so many things to talk about, so that woman in the rural area, that man in the rural area will rather be encouraged that progress is made rather than doomsday conversation that nothing is happening.
Are we saying we are holding our ground and we are not allowing our sovereignty and any inch of it to be lost in the name of diplomatic or assistance?
Lost in what way? Lost or to be invaded or to...
We have American boots on the ground. That's the question.
For training, yeah. They are not involved in active fight with people. It's for training. Those ones that came for the operation was an agreement between the two governments. Let me tell you.
What was their focus?
I'm coming. Even in England, in Europe, the entire Europe, there are American presence here and there through collaboration. What we have said from the beginning, we did not agree to, was to come without our consent, because under United Nations Convention, there are 3 areas by which a foreign soldier can be in another foreign soldier. Number 1 is when the United Nations pass a resolution in a situation of a crisis in a country and they send troops. Number 2, if there is an agreement between both countries. And number 3, if there is war between those countries.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu responded to that. He was very grateful. He says, thank you for your thoughtful letter. Your kind words mean a great deal to me, and I appreciate your decisive leadership Okay, well, that's the letter from the president, rather. So President Tinubu is very excited about that letter. And the controversy was very strange. It came out simply because at that particular point in time, the opposition in Nigeria, first of all, this letter is dated July the 6th, 2026. So there was some question as to whether it was kept for a time when some kind of criticism would come up. Well, the Washington-based lobbying firm hired by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar began, some kind of circulation of DOJ records that are related to President Bola Tinubu's 1993 civil forfeiture case to officials in the Donald Trump administration. So that's where the controversy came out from. The fact that this particular 60-page document was being circulated to people in Congress, to people in the United States government. So while that is going on, the presidency responds with this letter from the President of the United States commending President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the work the collaboration that we've had with the United States in the war against insurgency. So that's where the controversy is. So the Nigerian people are watching this situation. It is pertinent to note, Mr. Daniel Bola said this yesterday, this civil forfeiture case always kind of comes up when it's time for elections. It does feel like it's contrived in many ways. But let's see if we can go back and give you the history of what happened with that particular forfeiture case. So we'll go back to, I think, 1988 to 1991, where the United States investigation began. So the U.S. authorities investigated this heroin trafficking network operating between Nigeria and the United States. And now during that investigation, they had alleged that some proceeds from the operation passed through bank accounts that were linked to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He wasn't president at the time. 1993, that civil forfeiture case kicked off, and the United States Department of Justice filed a civil forfeiture case, not a criminal prosecution. So this civil forfeiture case in a federal court in Illinois. Now, the government sought to seize funds that it alleged were connected to proceeds of drug trafficking. The case ended in a settlement. President Tinubu forfeited about $460,000 to the United States government. He was not convicted of a criminal offense in the United States. In 2022, the documents resurfaced rather, ahead of the 2023 general election. Certified copies of the 1993 U.S. court documents became public again, and it sparked at the time fresh controversy over Tinubu's eligibility to contest the election. Fast forward to 2023, after Tinubu won the presidential election, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi challenged his victory, arguing that the forfeiture case affected his qualification. Then the Presidential Election Petition Court ruled that 1, the U.S. case was civil, not criminal. 2, Tinubu had not been convicted of any crime in the United States, and there was no proof he made a false declaration to INEC. Then the Supreme Court later upheld his election. In 2023, FOIA lawsuits. American journalist Aaron Greenspan filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit seeking additional FBI, DEA, and other U.S. records related to that old investigation. Now, 2025, the U.S. federal court ordered some agencies to process and release responsive records where appropriate, instead of refusing to confirm or deny whether such records exist. So the lawsuit is still ongoing there. Fast forward to this year, in March, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar retained Washington-based Von Batten Montague York LC under this 12-month, $1.2 million contract to engage the United States policymakers and counter what he's describing as the Nigerian government's lobbying efforts in Washington. Now we're in July. The records have been sent to the Trump administration and to Congress. So that's where the controversy is coming from, just so you can have an idea of how all of this started and where we are on this conversation. Over to you, Ayo. What are your thoughts on this whole matter? And of course, remember, we are looking at people talking about a Christian genocide. Remember how the country was almost on fire when this conversation came up. Well, this statement from Donald Trump, do you think, in your view, that this maybe in many ways, makes the Tinubu administration smell like roses for once? It makes them like they've made some kind of progress in this matter that the Nigerian people were so worried about.
Well, it sounds to me, Kayla, that you're saying, okay, you are an advocate, and now I'm the judge, so I'm not supposed to make my ruling. There's no such thing that's going to happen here. But one thing, let's establish something first. Kayla, I stand to be corrected, but sometimes it sounds to me as if even the opposition is making the case of the president for him. In the first place, it's public knowledge that there is a very warm and cordial relationship between former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and President Bola Tinubu. So let's lay that there. And I don't think politics has in any way embittered either of them against each other. So that established, let's just put that, out there. And there was a time, I think not too long ago, a few years ago, I think it was shortly before the elections, the president and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar were seen at the airport together, sitting down together, just chilling, gisting, chatting, and all of those things in public. Cameras recorded it and put it out there. So I would say that this whole investigation was just to further prove the same thing that has been known since before 1999. Just as you said, Kayla, this whole argument of the president's history and all started from way back. He was senator in 1992, 1993. The same cases came up. He was governor. Before he became senator, those cases came up. Before he became governor, those cases came up. Now, before he became president, those cases came up. And now he's running for re-election, and the case is coming up. For me, I don't see any cases. But there is one thing that I would like to see, Kayla. I want to see the letter that President Tinubu's office, or the President Tinubu himself, wrote to the U.S. President. Because the opening of the letter to the Vice President is thank you for your thoughtful letter. I would like to see that letter. But in the meantime, let's let that rest for now. Kayla.
Indeed. You took those words right out of my mouth. But kudos to the presidency of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because they are very excited about this. And we'll be watching to see how all of this unfolds. We've been watching it happen almost every election year. Even when Tinubu wasn't running for president, this matter came up during the election period, mostly because the election had to do with the All Progressives Congress. But those are the details. I think Laolo Akondo will be here later so we can break down this matter further. All right, well, we have to go on a short break. When we come back from that break, we'll take our attention to Rivers State, where the people are suffering again because there's a gas leak in the community that's causing people's lives and livelihoods to be jeopardized. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Across the island community of Bille, unrefined natural gas is seeping from the ground at multiple locations in rivers, wells, drainage channels, and even residential streets. The emission is easily detectable through its strong presence in the air, with residents reporting discomfort when inhaling it, alongside a noticeable effect on taste and water quality. A tour of the community by Social Action and other stakeholders reveals gas bubbling visibly from the ground in several locations.
The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, which is responsible for regulating the oil industry, have done nothing, apart from just making a media statement that they are going to do something about it, they are going to investigate it. But months after, we've not seen any response. We are seeing situations where the very lives of people in this community are threatened. That people are living in fear. There is uncertainty because at any point in time, there could be an unmanageable fire situation.
Bille hosts OML 18, operated by the NNPCL, which has deployed a fire truck to the area as a precautionary measure. But environmentalists describe the move as inadequate. Activists at the scene did not hold back in their assessment of the danger, even as they showed how the community's water source turns black in seconds once collected in a bottle.
I've never seen anywhere where you fetch water and in less than 1 minute the water has turned black. You have seen bubbling gas on top of the river, even on the street. The street is bubbling. So it means that these people are sitting on a cake of gunpowder. They might be sleeping and waking up in fire, in air fire. And so I'm surprised that this happened since November, and up till now, the government of Nigeria has not declared a state of emergency here.
The groups are asking the federal government to formally declare a state of emergency in Bille, a designation they say is long overdue given the scale of contamination already reported.
I'm furious, I'm angry. I'm not from Bille, but I am angry. Bille are my people. I am their person. I just don't believe that we live in a country that can put people through what Bille people have been going through since last year. It didn't happen last week. It didn't happen last month. It happened last year.
If the Bille community immediately rise now that they want to shut down Women 24, Yahuba, and by extension, Women 18 operations NNPC, immediately they will react because they know that they are losing a lot of economy for just one day. But they have not reacted to this situation since October last year till now.
The emissions have been on since November 2025, heightening concerns over both the immediate health risks and the long-term environmental damage facing Bille. So far, the federal government has failed to arrest the situation for the past 7 months, even as social action insists the community is sitting on what it describes as a ticking time bomb, one that requires urgent government intervention before it escalates further. Charles Opurum, Channels Television News.
Comrade Kennedy West, the President Movement for the Survival of the Izon ethnic nationality in the Niger Delta, joins us in the studio to discuss this very troubling situation. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Born in Nigeria.
So let's talk about it. What's going on? Is it the community that is breaking? Is it people from the community that are causing these leaks? Or are there people coming from outside? Because a leak means that someone tried to steal. Correct me if I'm wrong. How does a leak happen? In your community, does someone come and break it? Is it sabotage? Is it theft? What's going on?
Absolutely not. Far from the community. You see, Bille community is one of those early communities that started off with the oil and gas extraction in Nigeria. So we're talking about pipes, that are being buried underneath the earth for decades.
Okay.
Probably 5 decades or 6 or thereabouts, in the 50s, early 50s, when oil was discovered. And over the years, wear and tear has been happening to those, just like we always say that there should be a very strong emergency on decommissioning of oil and gas facilities in the Niger Delta, more especially those that have been obsolete over the years. But government and the multinationals usually pay lip service to it. All they want is to extract. They are less concerned about the maintenance of the very instruments, infrastructures that they use. And that's what is happening, is wear and tear. And government knows about it. There's no two ways. It has nothing to do with third-party interference.
So it's not sabotage.
It has nothing to do with theft. It has nothing to do with sabotage. And let us understand this issue here. We're not talking about a traditional one-off exploration of, a pipeline. No, we're talking about an emission, a seepage from various points of leakages. What can cause that? It's wear and tear. It's because of the corrosive nature. It's because of how obsolete it is. It has gone completely bad. And then it is not just, you're talking about in the water pumps, you're talking about beneath the soil, you're talking about in the river bubbling from high pressure over the years. And then this comes from October down to this period. And now we're not just before the community even discovered it in October. That means that there has been this seeping, very imperceptible leakages that the eyes could not see until it started deteriorating. And even as we speak, it deteriorates. So there is no way government cannot hold it on the community. Government should hold it on themselves. Poor regulations. Poor regulations, that is what is causing it. So you don't say it is a community. That's not in the community. The community is totally vindicated from this.
I mean, looking at the sites there on the screen, my goodness, it brings even fear.
See, let me
just so we can get an idea of how this has impacted the community itself.
Okay. Bille itself It's on the southeast of Degema local government. Is an island, cut across the swamps and mangroves, within, and then by the right, by the west side of it is Bonny local government. So it's how strategic that Bille is. Now, Bille itself, what's their traditional occupation? Fishing, farming, and trading. Now you have bubbling gas coming from the pipe, from the pumps, from the beneath the soil, and then from the river. So basically, you have already eclipsed all their means of survival. They can't fish, they can't drink water, they can't eat, they can't even travel, they can't even. So these people are traumatized. I can tell you that they wake up every day thinking that, look, the world can just end today.
And the health impact on everyone.
The health impact is just traumatizing. First of all, respiratory system. Secondly, skin diseases. And then you cannot, there is nothing. The Bille people are right now, be preparing to be extinct. That's exactly what. And the government is, they say they are doing something. Yes, they are doing something. But this is not a time. Desperate situations requires desperate measures. And then you don't begin to observe protocols and tell me that you're waiting for them. When you know the billions of dollars that this government, the federal government as a whole, from its inception, has gotten from this community. Now it is time for you to pay back and intervene. Let the people know that we're loved by the Nigerian community, and then you begin to observe protocols here and there, and then you're waiting for when the result will come. Now it takes ages for the result to come. Is that in a modern technology where you can just look at it and immediately? And then let us also understand something here. This case should not be only peculiar to the Bille people. Every other community that has oil and gas, because right now we're seeing the ricochet effect of what the lack of decommissioning of oil and gas infrastructure and facilities could do. Because you don't. What are they supposed to do? The moment you finish exploring oil from a particular place, you immediately mobilize the decommissioning team. And then they go there and start the decommissioning exercise to prevent leakages and issues like this. But they just abandon it and left. And now the community is facing the consequence.
My colleague in Lagos has a few questions for you. Go ahead, Ayo.
Thank you, Kayla. Comrade, I can only imagine what the people in that community must be going through now. But let's be a little pragmatic in our conversations now. I know that emotions, not only emotions, lives are at stake, and so many things are playing right now, all at the same time. But a simple check reveals that there are a number of government agencies responsible for mitigating these so that they don't happen. They're expected to have taken proactive action to avert this ever happening in the first place. But for it to have been on now for more than 6 months, in fact more than 7 months, that really is something. I don't know if you are aware of any effort made by any agency of government, be it the upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, which is responsible for environmental safety and emissions, including gas leaks such as this, as well as the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSTRA, who is actually responsible for monitoring and investigating environmental emergencies such as this. Any effort by anyone that you can tell?
Well, from records, we gathered that we have the Minister of State for Gas, Chief Prefect has been there. We have our own Eyesan from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has also visited the governor, and the governor has sent a team, to be there, and even made a contribution of about 100 million. And then they've sent experts to take soil test and all of that. But you see, this is not just an one-off incident. No, we're talking about a persistent seepage. We're talking about something that is new, something that is not for us, it's not natural, it's not normal. You know, you could see the bubbling from the river, from beneath the soil, and then from the pump. That means that this has to be something that has been there for leakage. And then for it to start doing this way, you should know that it is something that has been there for a very long time. Now, NEMA, NOSRA, and all of that, this is a peculiar situation. While we're watching, we also saw one station, the fire service. Listen, what can that do? By this time, we're talking about not just sending palliative. We're thinking about how do you start planning an exit strategy so that you can have an overall study of that community. How do you, where do you send these people to? It's a peculiar situation. Let us not send these people as people to be sacrificed and begin to observe protocols and bureaucracy, knowing the bottlenecks attached to it. This is not it. This is clearing that place as an emergency. Declare a state of emergency in the Bille community. And then you have an exit strategy. For crying out loud, if there is one mistake there, the infernum will be unimaginable, will be undescribable. It is going to be hell on earth.
It is definitely, something very, very concerning. There is no doubt about it. The only concern that I was trying to express is, look, it is very, very utopian, almost giving everybody nobody's job when we just say the federal government should come and do something, when the federal government agencies have federal government agencies that have specific and direct responsibilities for these things. From what you're saying and what we have been seeing, these things aren't just happening for the first time. It would seem like it only started showing late last year because it had been like that for a while. Are you aware of any maintenance system around the infrastructure around that particular community or anyone like it? I remember the federal government under the Buhari administration talking about clearing about the Ogoni cleanup. It's clear now that it's not just the Ogoni community that needs to be cleaned up, but everywhere in that environment, because what we have been seeing is definitely concerning. Are you aware of any government efforts at maintaining the infrastructure of the petroleum resources infrastructure, including oil, gas, and the rest of them, in that community or anywhere around for a while?
Absolutely not. I've not seen it, even in the community. From reports we get there hasn't been any government recognized institution, not even a private institution that is there presently trying to carry up maintenance activities. There is none. All we hear, or the promise federal government, the government gives is that we're waiting for the final result of our findings. Now, you don't have it, but
well, just a second. So there are many, interested parties that have direct responsibilities here. There are the oil companies themselves. There is the federal government and its agencies. There is the state government who is supposed to ensure the safety of lives and property in the state, irrespective of what federal government infrastructure is there. The state government has a direct responsibility. But then there are also the people. Over the years, you are aware that sometimes when we hear of vandalism and all of those things, there are fingers always pointed at the communities. And the Petroleum Industry Act has kind of hinted at some kind of reward system for the communities that protect their infrastructure and some kind of reprimand where things go awry. What do you think can be ascribed as this is what caused this, and if we don't do something about it to mitigate this, maybe it will happen again? What would you say is the cause?
This is simple. When there is a third party interference on the pipes, we know that immediately, because it's even very, immediately it caused them an explosion. Now, we're not talking about this one now. We're talking about that there is a failure because of how the aging facilities there. So it is not, it's just take for instance, how do you feel for a 90-year-old woman? She's not the same again. You look at those pipes as in wear and tear. It is overused. It is not replaced. It is not removed. There's still sediments of gas within those pipes there, and they need to express themselves. And so therefore, when it becomes corrosive, the metal system becomes very weak, and then because of the pressure inside, there are leakages seeping, here and there, dripping, oozing here and there. Now the Bille case is a test case. It's a test case for the years of neglect. We're not talking about decommissioning today. The issue of decommissioning is even enshrined in the Petroleum Industry Act since 2021. Have they been able to go and look at it? They've not been able to look at it, so they don't. This should be a quick reminder that what does the Constitution, what does the law prescribe concerning obsolete pipes, and then what are they supposed to do? What is the damage? Now, we are not even comfortable with the Petroleum Industry Act because it creates no room for safety and security of the people, oil producing communities in the Niger Delta. It does not. We're boxed up to the corner. We're boxed up to the corner, and we totally resent that. We are not subscribing to that 3% of it. It has nothing to do. The government probably does not have a clue because maybe the problem is strange to them and they're a bit confused. There's no coordination.
The idea that our government is confused on a matter that we've been dealing with for a very long time. Sometimes, when these things keep coming back, it makes one believe that it's possible that this is on purpose. It doesn't make sense, but just so we can be clear on what's happened in the community. So we have abandoned monopumps and long forgotten shallow wells, and this gas that stays bubbling to the surface, pushing through these aging pipes. So since 2025, the community said that they observed that this abandoned monopump started boiling and bubbling. They've invited people from the government, parastatals, they've invited people to come up to the end, but to no avail. So that's from someone in the community. I think his name is Josiah. So talk to us now about solutions. What can be? I know it is. So what should be done in your view right now, and just in a minute as we wrap up?
See, immediately create a state of emergency in Bille community. Think about an exit strategy first. An exit strategy. The people are traumatized. You can't keep people there. Apart from the environmental pollution, the inhaling of air, what about their psychology, which is the major thing you need to look at? What about their psychology? Nobody sleeps well there, and you have about 77,000 or more people within a particular area who probably don't even have friends or people to come and stay with in town. What do you do about that? Take this issue very seriously and address it. Suspend every protocol that you need to. You need to find a lasting solution. I am not an expert in dealing with this, but I can tell you that my near sense tells me that, look, create a state of emergency, get a commission immediately that will come from the Ministry of Petroleum, the Ministry of Gas, the Environment, and all other, and then give them a marching order immediately. Given them that, let it be a presidential committee.
All right. Comrade Kennedy West, President's Movement for the Survival of the Izon ethnic nationality in the Niger Delta. Thank you so much for your time on the program, and our greetings to everyone in your community.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
We'll be shifting gears again, discussing almost everything that's happened in the country in the past few days. Convo will be joining us soon. Please stay with us.
Fact-finding The House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee investigating the legal status, operations and budgetary inclusion of the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, PFIPC, has begun its public hearing with a pledge to determine whether the council was established in accordance with the law. The sitting is attended by the House Leader, Professor Julius Iovere, who represented the Speaker, members of the committee, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, representatives to the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other government officials. During the hearing, the committee chairman, Mr. Yusuf Gatti, raised questions on the office allocation to the controversial agency, as well as the deployment of staff to the council.
You are the head of civil service of the Federation. You are going to help us work with Nigerian people. You are working with the Nigerian people. We want to know who authorizes the request for organizational structure for the PFIPC.
From our records, the council in question submitted a request to the OHCSF for approval of its organizational structure on the 6th of August 2025 without providing the requisite documents. Consequently, the request was not granted.
She also explained that although an authorized establishment for 314 staff positions was issued,
the conversation on this fake presidential agency continues. And Mr. Lawal Akonde joins us, and we'll be talking about that and other issues. Mr. Lawal Akonde is a former presidential aide and host of Inside Sources right here on Channels Television. Thank you so much, Mr. Lawal, for being here.
Good to see you.
Okay, there's update. You said the head of service.
Right.
And of course, we're hearing, of course, maybe we should have been taking a closer look at the Office of the Secretary General of the Federation as opposed to just the Office of Chief of Staff. Conversations over the past few days have shown that it's possible that this letter was fake. We had the Chief of Staff's lawyer, Mr. G.T. Ogunye, on this program yesterday, and he said the letter was fake. Even by looking at it, you could tell that the letter that he says originated from Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila's office, said that letter was fake. You had a stronger stance last week asking for the Chief of Staff to step aside as long as this investigation goes on, and we understood that because you say he's powerful enough to influence an investigation of this sort. Do you still hold that view today?
Oh, well, I think the circumstances has not changed. My summary is that if and when he steps aside, he will be doing the right thing. But just like you said, there are quite a lot of things that are also coming up, which we had also hinted that the investigation is going to reveal quite a little. And now we are beginning to see some of the revelations. You had the head of service saying that basically, look, it was the office of the secretary to the government of the Federation.
And just so I we're talking about Mr. George Akume here.
That's the
not some small politician. We're talking about Mr. George Akume.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the first point that I would like to make is that at the hearing, I think started on Monday or thereabout, the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation was not represented, and that wasn't good enough at all. You had the chairman of ICPC himself personally in the place. You had the head of service personally in the place. That shows that they understand the gravity and the seriousness of the issue. The absence of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is not very good, and some of the other key government officials. And I think the chairman of the panel made a very important play of that they had to be there. It's important to have everybody that is involved to come and answer, because that is a public hearing. The public hearing has the potential of actually, demonstrating the kind of transparency that is required for government to be able to recover its lost reputation on that matter. So if you have top government officials ignoring the invitation or not sending appropriate representation, it doesn't send a good message at all. So the important point I'd like to say today, make today, is that, look, all the government agencies that have been invited need to show up and make their own position known publicly, just like the head of service has done.
I was going to talk about the head of service because, Didi Wilson-Jack, formidable woman, and, stellar reputation. So when all of this happened, and the first thing that came to my mind was, how did you get an office in Federal Secretariat under Mrs. Wilson-Jack? How did that happen? And then listening to her say, no, this is actually the situation. So what that has done, and I think that's what you're pointing to, that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, needs to come out and do the same thing, because what she's done now is we've looked past, okay, so we know you're not involved in this. Who else dropped the ball on this particular matter?
Yeah, I mean, and it's also very, it's quite curious that since the head of service made that declaration, that disclosure on Monday, the office of the Secretary to the Government of Federation has been silent. That is irresponsible, because you're not just talking of somebody who is talking, who doesn't know what he's doing. This is the head of service of the Federation that is saying, look, this thing was done, it was the office of, and then you keep quiet. Day 1, day 2, today is day 4. Yeah. The office of the Senator has been silent. That is not fair to the Nigerian people. That is not responsible towards the president, and it doesn't show that the leadership of that office understands that this is public trust.
We hope he does something. You still have today.
Of course.
So let's see what happens today. Let's move on to the President Donald Trump lauding President Tinubu on the fight against terrorism.
Well, I think that's a bit of good news that I'm sure it's going to make a lot of celebration in the villa.
But the date, that was why there was a bloodbath in this studio yesterday.
Yeah.
It was July the 6th that letter came out. Were they saving it?
Yeah.
As a little nugget for a time when some kind of criticism comes, because it was interesting that is when Atiku's lobbyists are moving for whatever the hell in moving those heroin, the drug forfeiture case papers, and so it's at that time that they now brought out this one. Do you think that was what was happening? You used to work for the president. That's something you could do. You keep some things in your back pocket.
Politicians will do that, but I think what I would have done, was that when that letter came in, the letter should have gone out immediately.
On July the 6th?
Yeah, because, in this game, in this issue of public communication, you want to put the strongest foot forward always. As long as you are the first person to communicate on the matter, you're going to control the narrative. Not that you have people to push back, but you have a clearer, a stronger control. So the presidency lost that opportunity when they sat on it, or maybe they didn't even know, maybe Mr. Onuga wasn't even aware. I don't know how the dynamics work. But it would have been better for that thing to have gone out the moment that it went.
Because if we're looking at the timing, and people have to understand that the presidency is a game. It's back and forth in many ways. Imagine if that had come out on July the 6th, and then this whole matter with Atiku and his lobbyists came out afterwards.
Right.
It would have painted a different picture. It would look like he's doing this because congratulatory so they would have been in front of the narrative, as opposed to now having to you're coming from behind, and then you're now trying to bring up Atiku's Halliburton matter. So it feels like you're being defensive, and that doesn't engender confidence in the way you're handling communication from the presidency.
It's better to be proactive rather than being reactive. But when you look at the issue, when you put Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Atiku, up against each other on the question of on questions around corruption, I don't think it's going to be helpful to either of them, because both of them have sufficient baggages. So this attempt by the Atiku camp to try to say that, we've circulated copies around the Congress and White House, to me it's of no moment. Because it's not really, yes, it's going to cause a lot of controversies here at home, but those controversies don't run deep. They don't run deep. The matter has been litigated, interrogated, we talk about it over and over. Can they find something new to talk about?
Maybe the presidency, and I saw Mr. Daniel Bola doing that yesterday, bringing up the Atiku Halliburton case, this long-standing international corruption investigation into a $182 million bribery scandal involving the American oil services firm Halliburton and its former subsidiary KBR and various high-level Nigerian government officials. And although former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has never formally been convicted or judicially indicted by either the Nigerian or United States authorities regarding this matter, the fact that it's named in some way kind of, brings some kind of... So do you think, because we saw Daniel Bola trying that yesterday, should they move in that direction?
Well, no, in the Alibotin case, the strongest case was even against President Obasanjo himself.
Yes.
And you remember, one of his aides even was even investigated at some point. So I don't think that is the worst case they can bring out.
Against Atiku.
But it's the William Jefferson congressman case who gave Atiku $100,000 that was found in his fridge, and the man said it was Atiku that gave him the money.
That's the one they should.
That's the one they should be bringing out, if at all. But I think let them just give Nigerians what are they going to do? What are you going to do differently? For instance, are you going to end subsidy? Are you going to bring subsidy back? The things that this president has done that has caused a lot of problems, are you going to reverse it? Those are the conversations that we expect to have, not all this, child's play and something that looks like a beer parlor kind of narrative.
Mudslinging.
Better put.
All right, Ayo has a few questions for you. Go ahead, Ayo.
Well, thank you, Kayla. Listening to that, my first question, Mr. Akonde, was going to be, can we change the topic from this whole case that's been going on and on? This president contested to be senator, contested to be governor, contested to be president, and the same case keeps coming up over and over again. Why do you think that is the case? Because I would expect that there are some other things that should be playing as opposed to this, as you call it, mudslinging.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you for that question. I think part of the problem is that we have, for the most part, a group of politicians who don't really understand what it takes to play opposition politics. They don't get it. They don't understand what it takes to play opposition politics. Look, if you're going to fight somebody like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was in opposition for longer years than he has actually been in power. He's been in power now for 3 years. He's been in opposition from 2007, as a matter of fact, from 1999 up until 2015. In those years, they were never able to convict him of any crime, which is their whole failure. Now, when he was outside of power, you guys were not able to bring a compelling case against this man, and give him the tag that you thought it deserved, put the thing around his neck. You couldn't do it. Now the man is in office, you have to be more innovative. You have to find new narratives, and they exist. But the problem is because I don't think that there is a significant difference in those areas that they're talking about between the opposition and the people in the government of the day. So it's really, for me, it's not going to go very deep. The people who vote in this country, they're not concerned about some of those things because they see all of you as the same. So they're not going to make any decisions based on some of those things. They should talk about what are they going to do differently.
And that's usually very difficult to hear from opposition political parties most of the time. I think it was, anyway, let's leave opposition parties. And back to that letter that you and Kayla spoke about earlier. I picked two things that I would like you to speak to, and they are like, I would call diplomatic perspectives to that letter from President Trump of the United States of America to President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria. First of all, he said, thank you for your thoughtful letter. To me, that is saying, you know what, the president wrote first. What is in that content? What do you think that letter, you have inside sources? Your program is not named Inside Sources for nothing, so you must have inside sources. What could be the content of that kind of letter that President Trump was responding to? Another leg to it, yes, that's the opening line there. Thank you for your thoughtful letter, your kind words. So the president must have said something to him or the other. Now, in the third paragraph, I think, the U.S. president, took some glory to himself. That's something that the Nigerian government and the U.S. government under his leadership did together. I mean, it's customary for President Trump to take the glory, so to speak, for one thing or the other that he has done. I don't know what you make of those two statements and what we should be reading from it.
Okay, thank you. So to the first part of the question, I think by now President Bola Tinubu will have realized that he was actually shooting himself in the foot when he delayed for over 2 years in naming ambassadors, especially to Washington, D.C. and to the United Nations. I can tell you, based on my investigations and knowledge of some of what is happening, that it is the work of both the ambassador in the United States, that is retired Colonel Kayode Are, and the ambassador in the United Nations, that is Senator Jimoh Ibrahim. It is the outcome of the fact that they are now on the ground that you now find this kind of courteous exchanges between President Bola Tinubu and President Donald Trump. That is just what the facts are. Those two gentlemen have done the president a great deal of good job. The ideas of writing the president directly and all of those things, and some of the moves that they've been making both at the United Nations, where Mr. Ibrahim is making quite a big show for Nigeria, and in Washington, D.C., where Mr. Are is also doing quite a bit of on-the-ground work. It just shows that, the president just denied himself of some of these benefits by his refusal to name ambassadors early. That's the first part. The second part, of course, everybody knows Mr. Donald Trump. Mr. Donald Trump, fits very well on the idea of his exceptionalism. Is the greatest guy, that exists anywhere.
Yes.
And this is how he conducts himself. So if you want to get going with Mr. Donald Trump, you better tell him some good things, and of course, he's going to hold the whole table if you give him a chance. But you have to commend the Americans without a doubt that they've helped us, and we hope that there will be more support.
I can't wait for the statement. This is one of the best collaborations ever in the history of the world.
If we are saying it,
yes, that's how he's going to say it. I'm looking forward to it. As we wrap up, 2027 is shaping up. This Muslim ticket thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important point, Kayla, because I think that we haven't seen the kind of noise that we had in 2022 over the Muslim ticket, right now, and maybe it's been subdued by the news. But I also think that everybody is just trying to say, look, in the last 3 years we haven't really seen, what damage this has caused. Now, I still believe that we should have, for a presidential ticket, we should balance everything as much as possible. But of course, the president has argued that, look, I'm a Muslim from the south, majority of people in the north are Muslims, I can't go and pick a Christian. What I think the northern Christian ought to do, and the Christian family generally, is to say that, okay, look, then you got to also return the favor. If we're going to support you,
you have to support us if we do a Christian.
You have to support, especially the northern Christian at some point. Now, he tried to do some kind of correction in 2022 by naming Lalong as the Director General, and then of course the party chairman and SGF and all of that. But I think the people from the middle belt, the people from the northern Christians, they should be asking the president and the party that, look, what is in our future? I mean, are you saying that we are not good for presidential candidacy? And they should get something.
All right,
they should get something going forward.
They should get something going forward. But we do have to wrap it up there. Mr. Laula Konde, former presidential aide and host of Inside Sources right here on Channels TV. Thanks again for your insights this morning. And that's all the time that we have. One more day to the weekend. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Kayla Megwa. See you tomorrow.
Like you have a weekend. journalist, you're always working. Amaya Makide, Business Morning is on the hour. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.